We are going to use PYQs not just as another set of questions we have to solve, but rather as a diagnostic tool to check if our preparation is in sync with what UPSC is expecting us to prepare and to show in the exam hall. Stop solving PYQs just like as if they are another questions of another test series, but start reading them, and I will add to it, start learning from them. This is the biggest reason why people after 4, 5, 6 attempts are not able to get their name in the holy PDF, because for this one particular exam there is a reverse problem of an abundance of resources. Everybody has resources. The list of book list for UPSC exam is just a Google search away. Taking calls, doing elimination is not something which comes naturally to us from our school curricula or the curriculum in our colleges. But this exam, prelims especially, requires lots and lots and lots of elimination, maybe even more than the knowledge you consume. In fact, the knowledge you consume helps in that particular process of elimination. Elimination is the key. Hi everybody, this is Lakshay Agarwal, All India Rank 164 in UPSC CSE 2025, and today we are going to discuss how to study PYQs and not just read them, not just solve them, but rather learn from them to enhance and elevate your UPSC preparation so that you can get your desired rank. So let's begin. So we are going to use PYQs not just as another set of questions we have to solve, but rather as a diagnostic tool to check if our preparation is in sync with what UPSC is expecting us to prepare and to show in the exam hall. Secondly, we will also see how to make your notes out of those very PYQs and how to ensure that your preparation is aligned with what the commission expects. So as the poster will go in this session, we will see how you are expected to go about looking towards PYQs with a new angle, with a new perspective. So firstly, stop solving PYQs just like as if they are another questions of another test series, but start reading them, and I will add to it, start learning from them. How to do that, we will discuss going forth. We will see 3 worked examples: the amendments, case laws, executive versus legislature. Basically, we will take an example of GS2 paper and see how the micro themes of the syllabus align with the PYQs that are asked on that particular topic, and how your preparation should have been regarding that particular topic going forth. So there are, for every previous year question, every question that the commission ever asks is layered in 3 fundamental pillars. Firstly, there is a micro theme which is based upon the syllabus which the commission gives you. Secondly, there comes this static aspect of the syllabus, and then lastly there is this current aspect, something which the market, the industry calls as the current affairs. But rather, these current affairs are nothing but just what is happening in contemporary times based upon those very tenets of the syllabus which the commission has given ages back. So micro theme is a recurring subtopic which examiner asks again and again, just as we see the constitutional amendments like our fundamental rights, executive, judiciary, so on and so forth, speaking about GS2 particularly in this context. Second is the static aspect, which is the core area in each micro theme, such as in fundamental rights, we have our underlying tension between the fundamental rights and the amenability of the constitution. This is the core tension, the static aspect of that micro theme related to the fundamental rights and the core tenets of the constitution. Lastly, coming to the current aspect regarding the fundamental rights, here comes the current debate in the Indian polity regarding the fundamental rights. Just taking fundamental rights as an example. So here it will come your right to privacy debate, your Sanchar Sathi debates, which was happening last year. All those things will encompass in the current aspects. So here is something which you should notice, that if a question on Sanchar Sathi comes, now Sanchar Sathi is the current aspect of the static aspect, Article 21, which is again the core tenet, the micro theme of fundamental rights in the paper of GS2, right? So whenever you are seeing a question, like there is a question on Puttaswamy judgment or right to privacy in the previous year questions in GS2, you don't look at it just from the current aspect. You don't look at the previous year question and assume that this was relevant in 2016 or 2021 because that right to privacy debate was enraging in 2021, but rather you ignore that current aspect detail in that particular year, but rather focus on the static aspect and the micro theme aspect, and deduce that fundamental rights are important no matter in which iteration they are being asked. What I mean by that is you ignore the fact that particular question or particular context was being asked, but rather focus on the micro theme, and hence not just prepare the current aspects going on in market or the daily news cycle which is going on in the market, but rather prepare a micro theme so that no matter which current aspect question comes, you can handle it well, since you would have been prepared with the micro theme. This will also help you in analyzing the gargantuan newspaper, to analyze, to focus upon, and to ponder upon the news which is relevant from the angle of the micro theme, and not just gobble up every current affair just because the exam is current oriented or you are afraid from the market hullabaloo. So now let's look at an example of how one micro theme can generate questions across years, and hence see the relevance of not particular questions but rather micro themes, so that your preparation becomes streamlined vis-a-vis not the previous year questions but the themes. Here we have taken the example of constitutional amendments. So our micro theme is amendments. On that particular topic, we have been asked 3 questions in 3 separate years. Firstly, in the first iteration, 2017 question, we have been asked about the 101st Amendment, about GST. In the first part, this is asking about the constitutional amendment directly, which was absolutely current oriented. So here lies our current aspect question. This is a current aspect heavy question. Secondly, in 2019, we have been asked about the conceptual knowledge regarding the amenability of the constitution. So this is an absolutely static based question. And lastly, in the last year itself, in the attempt I appeared in the examination, it is asking about the limitations on the amending power. Again, a static based question and a bit more nuanced question than the 2019 one. In fact, we can say that it's just a continuation of the question which was asked in the 2019. So we are looking at 3 questions. Now, most of the people who are not watching this seminar will be solving these questions if they are orienting their preparation towards PYQs. But what more I want to give to you with this session is that you not just look at all these questions in isolation. You look at all these from the lens of this one micro theme, that any constitutional amendment per se prima facie becomes very important because it can directly be asked as a current affairs question. Also, you have to understand about the mechanism behind that constitutional amendment. Now, constitutional amendment can be switched with any other topic in the entire spectrum of the main syllabus. You have to see the constitutional amendment and understand the mechanism behind it, because we have got 2 questions of 15 marks each within a span of 7 years, asking about the basic content, basic static knowledge regarding that particular topic of the constitutional amendment. So that becomes extremely important. And if you put it down what I've said on paper, this becomes your map of preparation regarding this particular topic, that for any constitutional amendment, for the topic of constitutional amendment, you prepare your intro and conclusion. Any basic of answer writing which Arvind sir would have told you, you would know that you have to prepare your intro conclusions for particular topics. Secondly, for any particular amendment which in your exam cycle there would be, you would have to prepare the significance and the limitations. This limitation can be about the particular constitutional amendment, like the GST Act amendment, or can be about the limitation of the constitutional procedure of the amendment itself, which was being asked in the 2025 paper. And again, you would prepare about the types of amendments and procedure and any other branches which may come out of any other topic. Lastly, this is the current aspect, which is about the contemporary amendments. We just discussed about that. Here you can also say about the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam and the other amendments which the government of the day passes. This is what your notes will look like in real time based upon what we just discussed. So we have already seen, we discussed how this is the core conceptual map which you should have whenever you look at a previous year question or a group of it. This was the live demonstration of how this framework operates in real time. And based on that framework, this is how your notes should be looking like. If you want to be absolutely mains ready for any question that comes under the sun related to a particular topic. So see, we have here got a particular introduction quoting Dr. Ambedkar. We have got our article here as well. We have got the procedure as well, absolutely concise, without any clutter. Then the types of amendments, significance and need of amendments. Anybody who has read Lakshmikant diligently even once would know what I'm talking about here. And we have got our limitations here, the criticism. It's a whole gamut of what UPSC can ask based upon that one particular topic. Nothing made out of thin air. It is all backed based on what they have empirically asked in the previous year questions. Again, this is the second example of what I was saying. This is about the case laws. The case laws based on this. In this particular example, I am using gender justice, environmental constitutionalism, which were asked in 2016, 2022, and 2023. This is a very clear-cut method of asking questions, that they will take one topic and ask you case laws or examples about that one particular topic of constitutionalism. This can be about climate justice, this can be about gender justice, this can be about environmentalism, or whatever of that sort. This is also being asked in another iteration in GS3 as well. If you would have seen the GS3 paper of 2024, there was this question upon the environmental protests in the last decade. This was, I think this was in GS4 or 3. I'm not able to recall correctly, but this was the absolute same method of asking questions, of taking one topic and linking it to particular developments in the current contexts. So for case laws, we have got, they will ask absolutely the same thing: gender justice, constitutional provisions and case laws, environmental problems, relevant case laws, constitutionalization. So we will have to again write the constitutional provisions, IR Coelho case, and this is about judicial review. This is a bit different from the above two questions, because this is absolutely focused upon a particular case law. Now, these type of questions are a bit different, but these can be easily predicted and prepared for, because there are only a handful of case laws which have changed the direction of how Constitution is interpreted by the Honorable Supreme Court. So here we have our gender justice and environmental problems. How will you prepare for these case laws then? This was your demonstration, and now let's see how our mind map or the structure of our notes will look like for this one particular topic of case laws, or the micro theme of case laws. We will have our intro conclusion, of course, the gender justice provision, the environmental justice provision. They can also be other issues that come up as you read your newspapers. So that will also go in this spectrum only. The case laws of that particular year. I remember last year there was this case law regarding the OBC, the creamy layer, non-creamy layer classification. So that will go here as well. The reservation of seats in the medical colleges, that case law was popular last year. So all those things will go under this heading. Now let's see how we have prepared our notes based on this particular topic. We have our case laws for environmental, Ranjit Singh, MC Mehta, all those things will come in here. As you can see, MC Mehta, Nanda Bachao Andolan, Godavarman judgments, all those things will come in here. As I was speaking about, other issues will also come in here. So here are our children issues, the issues regarding transgenders, Nalsa judgments, and right to privacy debate. Women are here, minorities are here. There was this judgment about Aligarh Muslim universities, minority status. So that could have been asked. Yes, this has been mentioned. That too, interestingly, in a different pen, because this was a hot topic last year. So this is how your notes for this micro theme will look like. We have also mentioned our articles of the Constitution here as well. So this will Even if they are not asked in the question itself, they will elevate your answer to the next level, because at the end of the day, this is an exam of going specific. Example number 3, about the executive and legislature, the debate and the gray lines between the jurisdiction of executive versus and legislature. This is the micro theme based on the tension between the two organs of the government. So this is our PYQ cluster between executive and legislature. This is the mind map of the notes which will be developed based upon that. In this mind map, what do we have in here is, firstly, executive's role, like the cabinet ministers, the kitchen cabinet, or the ministers overpowering the parliament, as in the role of parliament is reduced to merely tokenistic. There have been questions regarding that tension. These two questions. Secondly, is the ordinance power of the government, by which they bypass the parliament in extraordinary times. But as we have seen, that power has been not used in its intended purpose. So it goes upon that particular mini theme on that front. Ordinance power, for that particular topic, there will be the need of ordinances, the limitation of ordinances, what has been the court's perspective regarding the ordinance power of the government. All those things will go on in this particular micro theme. And for this micro theme, these topics will will be in your notes. Here's this one example which I want to take on this front, that the judgment regarding government of NCT of Delhi, the elected government of the NCT of Delhi, and the union government, the power sharing tussle between these two, the 1992 judgment and the judgment in the 2018. So these become important in the gamut of executive versus legislature. These are our notes in that. These embellishments really help in making your answer stand out. In these notes, I have been very hazy, so please ensure that your lines are straightened in the actual examination. This really helps. So up until now, we discussed how to read PYQs, how to analyze PYQs, how to learn from PYQs to ensure that your notes are holistic and in sync with the expectation of the commission in the examination, and you're not shooting blanks in your notes and be absolutely flabbergasted when you see the paper. Right, now we will switch to our next section, in which I will discuss the 10 reasons why even the prepared aspirants still are not able to clear this exam. Okay, let's begin. Firstly, let me make clear what a prepared aspirant looks like. Prepared aspirant has done the basic books, has done the coaching notes or whatever notes they are referring to. They have revised them. They are very confident that they will clear the exam. This is what my definition of a prepared student looks like. They may have taken some mock tests as well. They may have even seen, now that we have already discussed previous year questions, the way rankers should. You will understand what I mean by the focus on the seen part. The prepared aspirants have seen the previous year questions but not learned from them. So this is a prepared aspirant. Now let's see the 10 reasons why even a prepared aspirant fails in this exam. This is the biggest reason why people after 4, 5, 6 attempts are not able to get their name in the holy PDF, because for this one particular exam there is a reverse problem of an abundance of resources. Everybody has resources. The list of book list for UPSC exam is just a Google search away. Sometimes it's not even a Google search away, it will just pop up in your Instagram. But having resources is not the same as using them right. And please mark this somewhere, please write it down somewhere at your desk, that you can have the best resources, exactly the same resources which me and my selected peers had, but you may still be using them wrongly, which at a point even I was, and may not get selected because of that particular reason. Because these PYQs, which everybody has access to, may not be able to learn the way we just did 5 minutes prior. So that's why I am saying that having the same resources is not equal to using them right. Two people reading the same spectrum book may mark an option in prelims right, and one may mark it wrong just because one person was going minute all in detail to the T for every detail in the spectrum book, and another person was just reading spectrum as a college curriculum book. The resources are same, but the way you interpret them, the way you learn from them, the way you analyze them, the way you start developing your own ideas from them are different, and that's what makes all the difference. As I said, these are not the gaps in knowledge. Everybody is reading the PYQs, everybody is reading Spectrum, Lakshmikant, PMF, everybody is doing the same thing, but there are gaps in judgment. Judgment, firstly, in selecting the right resource, because there is a plethora of resources. There is a gap in judgment of how to read a particular resource. The way you read a Spectrum book for prelims is poles apart from the way you read Spectrum for your mains preparation. Secondly, there are gaps in execution. Some people skip the last few pages. Some people ignore the boxes. Some people even ignore the basic content. And there are issues in the self-awareness. Some people, I have many aspirants text me or call me and tell me that I did one particular book properly. And then I ask them, how many times have you revised that particular book? And then they will say twice, hardly thrice. And then they will expect that they will answer every single question from that one particular book. This is not going to happen. Until you have not revised a particular book 4 times or 5 times, you should not expect yourself that you will be correctly answering any question from that particular book. Mark my words. Reason number 2 is avoiding mock tests. Yours truly has been a very big follower of this one particular mistake. We avoid mock tests for multiple reasons. For firstly, seeing absolutely deplorable mock test scores and rejecting ourselves from the very first mock test that one can't clear this exam. Secondly, taking mock tests and seeing those alien questions makes you question your own preparation, makes you question your own hard work. And seeing that ugly truth, ugly reality is not something which many people are able to face or are ready to face. Second reason is about the poor stamina for sitting for 2 hours straight in this world of distractions and then attempting the paper on OMR, filling those bubbles, revising the paper, then looking at the paper again and again, making those judgments. This takes toil. It is much easier to take up your Spectrum book and flip the pages for 2 hours and think that you have studied and you have tested yourself enough. These two are absolutely different things. Both of these things are important. People procrastinate doing the first thing because they are afraid and they are lazy because they can't sit straight for 2 hours. No just-in-time elimination technique. This is a great point. Doing elimination, which some people in Hindi call tukka or a blind guess, or even an educated guess, it takes guts. It exposes those unknown factors in your own personality, which you have ignored for quite a long time. Taking a guess is an extreme exercise in mental judgment, and many people avoid it. Most people, when they enter this preparation, they enter it from a college mindset that we will see a question, we will know the answer, and then we will take it right. Taking calls, doing elimination is not something which comes naturally to us from our school curricula or the curriculum in our colleges. But this exam, prelims especially, requires lots and lots and lots of elimination, maybe even more than the knowledge you consume. In fact, the knowledge you consume helps in that particular process of elimination. Elimination is the key, and 2026 prelims was evident of what I'm saying. Now here's a bit of wordplay. You don't finish the syllabus and then test, but the test of UPSC examination, my friends, is how you finish the syllabus. Almost everybody you will talk to who has cleared mains, they will tell you that they had to finish the syllabus in some way or other. Of course, they may say that they were not prepared for one particular section or so on and so forth. But any sincere aspirant has covered the syllabus. Anyone who has done foundation coaching classes, they have done the syllabus. But majority of them do not clear this exam, because it's not about the fact that you have finished the syllabus or not, but how have you finished the syllabus. And the how means in ranker session, if you want to get a rank, is to prepare your own notes based on PYQs, based on syllabus, as we just saw above. Revising those notes, taking mock tests, iterating them with your mentor, again iterating, again revising, again writing, again improving, and then you can say that you have prepared for this exam. Ignoring test analysis, taking tests due to FOMO, but not analyzing them at all. This is a bigger sin than not taking mocks, because if you're not taking mocks, at least you're saving on the time of taking the mocks. But if you're taking mocks and then not analyzing them, then what was the point of taking mocks? This is ignoring your own shortcomings and not trying to improve upon those shortcomings, but rather just rejoicing in the fact that you have just taken a test but not improved yourself. So I will interpret it in a different manner. How one should analyze their tests is firstly by looking at why your logic failed whenever you ticked an answer, whenever you took an educated guess, and that turns out to be wrong. Then you have to go back to your thought process, not their knowledge, but your thought process, and understand why your call was wrong in this one particular question. If it was a knowledge issue, then of course you need to revise more, you need to maybe switch your material or whatever. But if it was a guessing problem, then you have to look at your own logic and then amend that logic going forth. Secondly is repeating the same trap errors. UPSC sets up some traps in which people fall in. They deliberately design statements in such a manner that they may appear to be the correct statement, but that is not the case. You will, whenever you read those PYQs, you will get to know for yourself. This is about mains. You ignore your blind spots in answer writing. You keep on writing mains mock tests again and again, but one fails to see those blind spots, and one should not do that, because otherwise the whole entire point of answer writing becomes redundant. How do you look at the blind spots in answer writing? A blind spot, by its definition, cannot be seen by yourself. So then you take your answer copies to your mentors, to anybody who is more educated than you in this particular process of answer writing, and then take their feedback, incorporate it, and again iterate. As they say, whether you score 100 on 100 in 200 and 200 in mocks, or you score -1, that makes no impact. But what makes an impact in your final score in prelims or in mains is how you identify your errors and how you do the analysis of the patterns of the mistakes which you've been making, which actually changes the qualified for CS mains examination or not qualified for CS mains examination statement in your result. Reason number 3, too many sources and mentors, something which we just talked about, that this exam has this problem of too many resources and too many mentors. The advice overload, which is driven by FOMO. You don't want to miss out on any source, any teacher, any advice, any video, any session, any topper. You want it all. You want the universe of the knowledge which anybody on the face of earth has gotten about this particular exam. Fun fact, no one knows precisely what works in this exam. We all have the hint of the entire dartboard. Nobody will be able to tell you where the bullseye lie. You have to, in that case, just take your darts and throw them left, right, and center. This is what they call hard work for this exam. And surely your dart will hit the bullseye, just as every year 800 or 900 odd people do. So I will just paraphrase this. When you take too many mentors or too many sources or too many topper advices or too many sessions, they may sometimes give conflicting advices. Like I said, that you must not delay your answer writing. But for some contexts, I myself or some other topper or some other mentor may say that one should do answer writing only after their notes have been prepared. The same may not be true for essay, same may not be true for ethics, for optional. 100 people, 100 mindset, 100 advices. You pick what suits you, what sails your boat. because too many choices are a prison. There are multiple advisors. There is no single system which guarantees a revision profile, which guarantees a note-making pipeline, which guarantees an answer writing pipeline, which guarantees an mentor advisory pipeline based upon those answer writing. Then there is no scheduler. If you do multiple things, then you can find yourself in that quagmire. The noise replaces focus. If you have 5 books for polity, if you are reading Lakshmikant as well, you are reading Basu as well, you're reading PRS, legislative as well, you will of course find yourself on the last end of your focus. And if you lose your focus, you will not be able to revise. You will not be able to revise, then you will not be able to recollect in the exam. You will not be able to write. You will not find your name in the PDF. The entire exercise will be futile. Taking CSAT for granted, well, if you are someone who was planning to do this, my sincere humble request, please just take the CSAT of 2026. If you are not scoring 70 or 80 marks within the first 1 hour 15 minutes, you should take CSAT more seriously. CSAT is an exam, is perhaps the easiest part of this cycle, but a part of this cycle, and any part of the cycle can absolutely wreck you, can spoil all your preparation for all other parts, and put you to zero in this game of snakes and ladders. Qualifying is not same as easy. Qualifying just means that your performance in the exam after a benchmark of 67 marks will not matter in your selection or rejection, but after the qualification benchmark, you have to reach to this benchmark. Only basic reasoning, never full tests. Take this rule of thumb for UPSC examination going forth. Don't do anything without a stopwatch. Don't write any test without a stopwatch. Don't take any prelims mock tests without stopwatch. Don't take any CSAT mock without a stopwatch. Time everything, because in UPSC exam, in such a competitive exam, time is of the essence. Some people may say that the paper was hard. Some people may say that the paper was easy, but no one will ever say that they had much time to spare. No comments on this one. Engineer guys, you know your blind spots. Don't be overconfident. Overconfidence is a sin for UPSC examination. Please avoid it like a plague. No benchmarking. I have been talking to people about prelims 2026, and some of them, out of their ignorance, have told me that their papers went well. Now, when I ask them, what do they mean by well? What is their definition of well? And they will say that I did this number of questions right, or maybe I am getting this much score basis of the UPSC qualification, UPSC answer key. And then I ask them, have you compared your marks with the marks which your peers are getting, or the rankers which over the years have gotten? And then they will say no. This goes for mains as well. People, after giving mains, almost everybody is very confident of their selection, but the reality comes in April when majority of them do not clear, because in our own head, and this is especially true for mains, because in mains, when you write your answers, you don't even have the time to go through them in the actual examination. You have just written the answer, and then probably you will be able to take a glance at them in the end when you're just flipping pages and submitting your copy to the examiner. So based upon that, your prima facie instinct always tells you that you have done better than your peers in the examination. You have done your best. This was very nice. Sometimes it may say that you could do better, but all in all, this no benchmarking sin, this no benchmarking reason becomes a point of contention where your scores may dip. This may happen. This has, as I told you, this happens to the people who write mains in the actual exam hall. So this is bound to happen when you take your mock tests. And if it happens at that stage, you will stop improving. If you have this feeling that you have been writing great answers, you have been writing good answers, then you will stop improving. If you don't benchmark yourself, if you don't look at the topper copies, if you don't look how toppers are scoring in that particular exam, you will not know your true level. You will not know the true level of competition. So you must self-audit your copies. You must audit basically means checking your copy against the topper. Finishing a paper says nothing about how it ranks. When I began this preparation, I saw a reel of a very popular teacher, and he said that anyone who finishes the entire paper of GS mains in the exam hall qualifies for the mains, qualifies for the interview. And I know many people which have fulfilled that condition. They have written all 20 questions in all 4 GS papers and done their optional papers, but they have not gotten the interview call for the simple fact that just writing any random thing in the entire paper will not fetch your interview call, which you will also agree on which you will also agree with me, just because it instinctively makes sense. No insight into value addition. Most people, when they are writing their first mains or they have not read topper copies, again, when they have not benchmarked themselves to the topper copies, they don't know the concept of value addition. As I was speaking about earlier, in amendments question, the question about amendments in GS2, it is absolutely mandatory that you write Article 368. That is the most basic value addition that you can do in any question. And anyone who does not benchmark themselves to the topper copies, anyone who does not audit their copies against topper copies or their better ranked peers, they will suffer from this disease of not adding value to their answer. Stalin had this quote, Joseph Stalin, that quantity has its own quality. This does not work for mains. You need to have both quality and as much quantity as possible. Filling pages is not same as outperforming. Again, the point I was trying to make earlier. The reason number 6 goes ignoring high gestation topics. Ethics is the only GS paper in which you have just one subject and it has the weightage of 250 marks. Rest all the GS papers have multiple subjects in them. But understand this one thing. Most of the aspirants spend much more time on GS3 as compared to GS4 and the least amount of time on essay, despite the fact that all 3 of them have the exact equal weightage in your final ranking. Why does this happen? Because of this policy that GS3 has a bigger syllabus, so it requires more attention, more efforts, more energy. Understand this one thing, your energy should be proportionate to the weightage of a particular paper or topic in the exam, not based upon how vast is it. If that was the case, then people should be spending most of their time on world history. But most people ignore this, and hence essay becomes the most neglected paper of the entire GS mains, entire UPSC mains. So do not ignore the high gestation topics. We will tell you why this is an issue. Understand that essay and ethics are not the papers which can be mastered in 3 months. Ethics can be done to a certain extent because it has a particular syllabus, but understand this one thing about essays, that essay writing is a skill, it is not a paper. And skill takes practice, it takes hard work, it takes iteration to develop, it takes iterations to mature, and it takes iterations to master. One cannot expect to become a great writer in the 3 months while they're preparing for optional, where they're preparing for GS and for ethics, competing against people who have studied from the finest schools, from the finest pedagogy available. If you want to compete with that league of students who have been fluent English speakers, who have been excellent English writers, you require time, you require effort. And thus, you need to dedicate your efforts, as I said, based upon the weightage. This is just a corollary of what I said, that in that case, essay and ethics become as important as your GS3. Delay compound silently. This is a silent killer for any UPSC aspirant, that whatever you leave for later takes your leave. The neglected becomes a deciding factor. What you neglect can appear in the paper, and then you will be thinking that I should have studied it. This should not happen to you. Revise properly based on a schedule. Do not let things pile up. This is the only superpower you require in UPSC, apart from answer writing. No perspective building. Most people face this issue in essay and ethics, but this is also a big deciding factor in GS papers as well, because now, as you see, the GS papers are getting more and more conceptual, more and more analytical, and not just based on fact-based knowledge testing. There was this question on Second World War in 2024, that how far it is correct to say that World War was fought to maintain the balance of power in Europe. Now you can read normal law, you can read any coaching compiler, but unless you know why World War One was fought, in which circumstances it was fought, you will not be able to write a good answer. And that perspective is something that needs to be built across the papers, across the topics, and that requires time and maturity and sincerity to read, analyze, and learn from the micro themes which are given in the syllabus. Mentors give the map, not the journey. Of course, I showed you how to prepare your notes, how to prepare a mind map related to a particular note for a particular syllabus topic. But how you implement it into your own life, your own journey for UPSC will definitely be your call. No personal voice and answers. If you have seen the yesterday's session by A.R. Raja, he also emphasized on this point that one should always give a personal touch to their answers. Most of the rankers I know who have secured good ranks have tried to differentiate their answer, tried to stand out from the crowd to make sure that the examiner does not get bored, does not think that, oh, this is just another copy, but rather gives you your due credit, your due marks for your individuality and your perspective and your expression. Reason number 8, not doubling down on strengths. This is an issue even with the rankers. When people reappear for the exam, they sometimes lose their marks in the subjects in which they had scored excellently in the previous attempts, just because they get trapped in this fallacy that they have secured great marks in one subject, i.e., which was their strength. They don't do strength training on that particular subject or topic or paper, and hence lose their edge next year to somebody else who was. This is an exam of 7 papers. 7 papers have around, as far as I counted, around 50 odd subjects. You cannot be a master of all, no matter how hard you try. So there is no point in obsessing over your own weaknesses. You will be weak in some areas. The point is to double down on your weaknesses, on your strengths so hard that they eclipse your weaknesses. Also, master the core tenets like answer writing, like revision, stale answer templates. Again, this links to my point regarding creating individualization in particular mains answers. When we join coachings or when we watch these kind of sessions, after a year or after a few attempts, these ideas, these tips will become stale, because by then it will become common knowledge. By then it will not be as novel as they are today. The way Tina Labi ma'am used to write, the way even Shruti Sharma ma'am used to write may not fetch as much marks in today's era of AI based preparation, just because now people are writing in even more content specific manner. So this is your cue to avoid template based answer writing. Not totally shy away from it, but do not make your answers mechanical as if written by a machine, but rather give your individual touch to every answer. As I said, that there's no innovation in answers if you rely on particular templates, if you try to imitate any topper of previous years, because rankers have originality and you are just trying to force fit a question on a formula. See, what rankers wrote in their attempts, in their examination for that particular question which they encountered, that their style worked for those questions. Nowadays, the questions are becoming even more and more analytical, more and more to some extent offbeat. So applying those same old tactics may not work. You cannot bring a knife to a gunfight. Failing on the D-Day, this is about exam taking tactic, how you show up in your exam, how you attempt it. Out of pattern papers break unprepared minds. This is especially true for this year's prelims. Even if you were prepared, that paper may have shook you, but if you were unprepared, then that paper would have been a disaster. It would have been extremely difficult to calm down your nerves seeing those questions on the first page. Thousands blank or over attempt. This is a classic issue with aspirants, that either they will not mark an option until they are absolutely sure, or they will mark all the 100 questions. Avoid extremities, as Marcus Aurelius said. This point highlights why you should do exam simulation. So now we have seen the reasons of why even prepared candidates fail. We have seen that they do not use the basic resources well, that they do not make notes, that sometimes they choke under pressure, sometimes they take too much advices, sometimes they do not take advices, sometimes they do not iterate, sometimes they do not take mocks, sometimes they take mocks but they do not analyze their mistakes. Anything that can sabotage your preparation will. Always be an adherent of Murphy's law in this exam, but don't stress about it. These mistakes are being told so that you can plug them. So now do this live exercise with me. Do a self-audit, self-correction, self-awareness exercise with me. Have you avoided mocks because your syllabus is not complete? Are you afraid of looking at offbeat questions, alien questions in the mock? And after a mock, do you analyze your scores or your thought process regarding a particular mark question you marked in your mock test paper? How often have you changed your strategy or mentor in 3 to 6 months? These are the barometer questions in which you should assess yourself whether you have been making the above reasons, whether you've been making the mistakes or the reasons due to which even prepared aspirants fail. Because if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you are very dedicated and you are preparing wholeheartedly for the examination. So is your week designed for deep work or surface progress? Because without focus, nothing gets achieved. Knowledge versus judgment. Do you revise content, or are you just correcting content, or just mastering your notes without stress testing them on previous year questions or the mock tests? This is something which most people do, that whenever they get an answer wrong in prelims, they usually dedicate that error to their memory and not their instinct, not their thought process, not their logic. Because dedicating any error to knowledge is easy. You just look at the book. Once you see the answer key, you see the Google search, and then you say, okay, this makes sense, and then you move on. But when you point the finger at your instinct, at your logic, at your decision making, then you are looking at something deep. Then you're looking at your psychology. Then you're changing your psychology, and changing one's psychology is extremely hard. That's why therapists are so expensive. So do not make this error. Look at the actual reason behind your error, and try to rectify that. Come on, let's do more self-analysis questions. So can you recall those hard prelims questions beyond the surface logic ones? Because those hard logic 1 questions are the questions which challenge your psychology beyond the basic knowledge comprehension type questions. This is what happens. Do your mains answers sound like reworded reference notes? This is what happens when you are so obsessed with your notes that you are just learning, revising, repeating those notes again and again in your mind, but not testing those notes, not using those notes, not applying those notes against the particular question that has been asked in the mocks or the previous year questions. The notes are a means to an end to answer the questions. The idea of this exam is not to master your notes, but it is to answer the question. The notes should be applied, should be learned, so that they are properly applied in answering the question which is in front of you. Have you tried ethics and essay as have you treated ethics and essay as post prelims? You're the better judge of that. Which is your strongest area? Optional GS, ethics and essay. This is a cue to double down on your strength. If any of these subjects are your strength, and ideally at least one should be, double down on that one. Do not ignore it. Have you tested under deliberate constraints like noise, fatigue, less time? I see many people complaining that their exam center in prelims or mains was extremely noisy, or the fan was not working, or so on and so forth, or the invigilator was too loud, or anything, or their co-candidate was having extremely bad body odor. This thing happened with me. Now you have to be prepared for all these contingencies. Of course, one can't be prepared for all contingencies, but the constraints like noise, like fatigue, like less time, like heat, because the exam happens in May, and of course the humidity, because mains happens in peak monsoon, at least in North India. So are you ready for these conditions? If not, then simulate your mock tests in these conditions so that you're ready for whatever comes to you in the exam hall, in the paper or outside it. What's your plan for recovery after a bad mock or burnout week? Because they will inevitably happen. What will you do if the real prelims throws a surprise? This is something which happened with a lot of folks in 2026 prelims paper. So what will you do? Will you just go blank? Will you succumb to the pressure, succumb to the fear of losing 1 year, or will overcome it and take every question for what it is on its merit, calm your nerves down, ignore about the result, ignore the live script going on in your mind that what will you do if you didn't clear this exam? Just focus on the particular question at hand, apply whatever knowledge you have, take the educated guess, and leave rest to God. Inner game. What is one fear you haven't admitted about this exam? It may be that this exam is related to your self-esteem. This exam is incredibly important for your career. It's your lifelong dream. It may not fulfill, it may shatter you, it may break you. And at some point, it will. Whether you clear it or not clear it, during the preparation, there will be a point of time where you will feel dejected. How do you plan to face those demons? And how it is shaping your behavior? Some people get into extreme monk mode. They become extremely arrogant to themselves and to the people around them. They create a lot of negative environment. Some people just quit the entire process altogether. These things are not right. This fear should be channeled, should be tamed, should be used in your preparation and not become a destructive force to your focus, to your positivity, to the life inside you. Now that you have made your reflections, I have asked you some questions. You must have ideally answered them in your head. Now it's time to write it down, just as anything in UPSC goes, and in bureaucracy as well. If it's not written, it's not real. Write it down, make it real. So there are 2 commitments which is required from you: no commentary, no elaborations, no explanations, hard truths. What you are stopping this week, which one behavior you will stop right now after the session. As soon as you write it, you will stop this behavior. End of discussion. Second is your commitment for 30 days, which one behavior you will consistently hold for the coming month so that it becomes your second nature in the coming preparation. Because that will ensure that all these mistakes that even prepared aspirants do, all these intangible challenges which this exam throws at you, you are immune to them. And even if not immune, you are prepared to face them as they come. This is it. Everyone prepares for this exam. Almost any student in this nation, at least at some point of time, thinks about preparing for this exam. Many people do prepare for this exam, but only rankers prioritize precision. Precision in choosing their resources, precision in choosing their mentors, precision in listening to their mentors, precision in revision, precision in analyzing the PYQs, precision in making notes based on PYQs, precision in revising those PYQs, precision in writing mock tests, precision in taking feedback, precision in applying that feedback, precision in taming down their fears, precision in iterating the same process again if it does not work out in the first attempt. Thank you. I'm Lakshay Agarwal again, signing off. Thank you.